Alright, welcome back. So those shots you just saw were graded using my newest strategy to create a filmic look inside of DaVinci Resolve, and I wanted to run you through kind of my strategy for getting that look today because I'm pretty happy with it. Now this filmic look that I'm going to show you is by no means perfect. It's created by me, not a professional colorist, and it's kind of just trial and error to get a look that I like over time. I think I'm getting somewhere in the right direction, but it's not perfect yet. So I just wanted to show you where I'm at and what I'm happy with right now. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump into it. Okay, welcome to DaVinci Resolve. Here's the shot I'm gonna be demonstrating this technique on today because it has some greens and it has some skin tones and you can just kind of see how it works out. Also shot at golden hour, so we're gonna have that warmth, which is really nice with the filmic look. It's not necessary, but it kind of helps out. So the first thing I'm gonna do is just apply the power grade for my look and then kind of dissect it from there. So let's just go apply grade. And as you can see, it already looks pretty dang good. I'm just, like I said, really happy with this filmic look I've come up with. And as you can see, not too many nodes here. It's pretty straightforward. But so you can see the whole process, let's just start from the beginning. So I disabled all the nodes. And now the first thing you need to do to your footage is transform it from log to a sort of Rec 709. And for this, I just have the CST here, which is actually a LUT. It's a phantom LUT. And it is the Eastman RM A7S3 LUT. So I have Sony footage right here, and I just love these LUTs. They just get your footage in a really good spot, and it just looks natural and clean and a little bit filmically stylized, but pretty straightforward, just Rec 709. Now the next thing I'm gonna do is go into my exposure adjustments, and I like to use the curves because I find it gives better roll off. So I'm just gonna bring down my highlights here, looking at the waveform, and then I like to go into my shadows and just drop these down, give it a bit more contrasty look. Maybe bring those highlights back up. We don't want to go too hard, but just adding in a little bit more contrast here. Now I'm going to go and change the white balance to this shot, and I like to warm things up generally with a film look, so I find around 200 in temperature tends to look really good, and just, you know, adds a little bit more of that warmth and pop into it. So next I'm gonna add the main stylized filmic look to this shot, and I have it under print right here. So if I turn it on, you can see it just adds a filmic look, and that is happening through Dehancer, which is a pretty expensive paid plugin, but it's the best way I've found to get this look. So inside of the print settings in Dehancer, I've changed only a few things. My profile is Kodak 2383, and I've lowered the contrast a little bit here, but the most important thing that sells this entire look is the color density. So basically color density just brings out the richness in colors, which is something that film does really, really well. So in this node in Dehancer, all my other settings except for print are just ignored, and under output, I've actually lowered it to 50% because at 100, the look's a bit strong. So I find 50 gives a nice filmic look. You can see off and on, but it's not too dramatic. So now the shot with a before and after is looking pretty dang good. I'm getting close to what I like, but I might just make a few more color adjustments. That's why I have this node right here. So if I just go under my primaries, I tend to like to add a little bit of yellow into my gain, a little bit of red into my gamma just to accentuate those skin tones, and then maybe cool it off a little with some greens and blues in the shadows. It's no science, I just like to mess around and obviously find a look that I like. But you can see if we look at this shot with our vector scope, our colors are lining up pretty good at where you want them. Skin tones are looking pretty much straight along that line, and you know, greens have a yellow color, but they're warm. And then usually the last thing I do is add some grain, which finalizes the look. So I just have it under Dehancer again. And basically what I have here is film grain at 35 millimeters, ISO 50. Dehancer just has really nice film grain. And then I actually add halation as well, super minimal here. I just have some custom settings and just a little bit of bloom to soften the highlights. And I should note that this shot and all the ones I showed you at the beginning were filmed using a very sharp modern lens without any filtration. So the image coming out of it was very clean, as you can see here, and I've just dirtied it up a little bit. And speaking of dirtying up your image, one last thing I sometimes like to do is if I add a node at the very end is add sort of a aberration effect to the overall image, just softening it up a little bit. So if I go into my effects and look up prism, I grab prism blur, and at first it's really strong, but I dial back these settings. So I bring the blur strength all the way to 0, bring the aberration distance to 0.005, and bring the aberration strength usually up to 100. And if we zoom in here to, let's say, actual size. You can see right here on my hand, if I turn it off and turn it on, you get a little bit of that aberration effect that makes it look like a vintage lens. And if you go to the edge of the image, you can actually see it a little bit more, but it's super, super subtle, and it just adds that nice color separation, and it's kind of a nice touch sometimes. So I like to add that from time to time, but that's basically my look. Super simple, 6 or 7 nodes, and a relatively straightforward look that takes you from this to this. Let me just run you through each of these finalized nodes one more time, just so you can see. So CST, conversion, exposure adjustments, white balance adjustments, some color adjustments, the overall film look, the grain, halation, and bloom, and then that aberration. So there you go. There is the before and the after. And because I'm here, let me just show you this look on another clip here. So I'm gonna grab my power grade, apply it, and as you can see, not great. This is definitely more meant for warmer looking scenes, but we can pretty easily correct this. So I'm just gonna go into my white balance and bring it down, cool it off, even kind of go in the opposite direction because we're winter here. So very different vibes. Then for exposure, I'm just gonna go into my curves here and make a few little adjustments here. And this shot right here is a great example of what the print and color density do. So if I turn it on, you can really see that film look pop out, especially in these red colors right here. And if I go into my effects and load up the print section of Dehancer, you can see if I bring this color density slider around, look at those reds. Look what it's doing. This is the default setting. You know, it's saturated, it's red, but it's not that dense. And if I bring that up, oh, it's stunning. So it really accentuates reds in particular, which is great for skin tones, but it just adds a lot to the image and really gives it that filmic look. Okay, so looking at this image, it looks pretty good, but one thing are the skin tones are a bit off. So I'm just gonna add one more node in here and select my skin tones here. Let's give them a nice selection, blur the radius on those bad boys, and then I'm gonna come in here to my primaries and just adjust that color a little bit. So let's just highlight those, check our vector scope. Yeah, that's a lot better. Here's before, here's after on that. And here's this entire look node by node. So first we have the CST to convert it into Rec 709. Then we go ahead and make some exposure adjustments, just add a little more contrast in there. We have some white balance, cooling it off, and then some color adjustments, bringing some warmth back into those highlights. Then we have the print, which really does a lot to add that filmic look. Then we have some skin tone adjustments, and then some grain, halation, and bloom. And just for the heck of it, let's add in a little bit of that prism look on the edges. We're just gonna go blur strength all the way down, aberration distance 0.005, and aberration strength to 100. And here's a look at that, just adding a little bit of touch on the edges there. So pretty cool. Here's a before and here's an after. So anyway, that was just a quick look into my color grading process in DaVinci Resolve in fall of 2023, just kind of where I'm at with that filmic look, and yeah, pretty happy with it. And I know it's gonna evolve over time, but I hope this was useful to some people to get an idea on the overall process and kind of how you can change your log footage into something that looks a lot better. So yeah, that's it for today. If you like this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe down below, and I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching.